So let me stop you right there.
Talk to me.
The bank is actually looking at
Has to.
websites and all of this
Everything.
stuff. Now people are probably like, I'll pay to come on the show. And
Yeah, when you have people talking about like, yo, I'll pay whatever, I'm like, oh, okay, oh, we got a podcast.
Explain to the people when you see all this like, no dog, no yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah, so once upon a time, you got to think, right?
Yeah.
You are coming to an institution to borrow $50,000 worth of debt.
What's up, world? Welcome back to the Tuned In with Tony podcast, and I've got a special guest on the show today. He actually has his own podcast, which you probably know, especially if you are in the credit repair space, business funding space, all of that, right? And this is one of the guys, when I was first trying to fix my credit, I saw his video on YouTube with a whiteboard. Didn't even know it was him, and now we're actually friends, kind of, right? So I've got him on the show, so I want to welcome all the way from New York, my guy, Marvin Francois. What's up, my brother?
What's going on, family? I appreciate the introduction. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Good.
What's cool is thanks for coming down from New York all the way to Atlanta.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people know you for credit, business funding, all the game that you give. But I don't think a lot of people remember you back on social media when you were a comedian. You remember, like, no one really talks about that Marvin.
Thank God.
You know what I'm saying? So what was it like? How did you start your Instagram growth to become the Marvin Francois that we started, when it started from social media, laughing and content, to moving that over to the content with credit? Because your credit content is actually still kind of funny. You know what I mean?
I appreciate it. Well, yeah, a lot of people don't, even now when I bring it up, people are just like, I had no idea that you're in this space. So we can go back pretty much from 2017 to 2020. I was an aspiring stand-up comic, right, out of New York City. At that time, I had dropped out of undergrad. I thought I was going to go to school to live the Haitian parent dream of either being a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer. And then I realized shortly after, I do not want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer.
Yeah.
I felt like I was called to be in entertainment just because I always had a knack for creating content.
Yeah.
And I always had a knack just for speaking and entertaining and just being in front of people and being in front of crowds. And I kind of put two and two together and said, like, all right, I want to be a comedian.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, let's take it up a notch. I want to be a stand-up comedian. And I did that for 3 years. And I had a pretty good amount of success. I toured at colleges and comedy clubs all across the country, worked with a lot of super dope people in the space as well. But then 2020 happened, right? So around that time, like for most people, I feel like the COVID year was pivotal for a lot of individuals, where you either shifted in a different direction or you just went all in on whatever you were involved in. With me, it was the former, right?
Yeah.
To where up until that point, because I'm young, I'm hungry, and I'm just trying to figure out this stand-up comedy thing, I'm just running, I'm gunning. And for me, I'm just like, yo, this is the grind, we figuring it out. But 2020 was the first time in my career I got a chance to just sit back and think.
Right.
And when I took a second to kind of sit back and think and look at, what I had done up until that point, I think I did okay for myself. But, as hard as I was working, the number in the bank account did not reflect the work.
Correct.
And I kind of had to have a real conversation with myself and say, okay, how much longer do I think I got to stay at this before I get to where I want to get to in the space? And even more realistic of a question, can I even get there? Right. And I realized that the answer to that question for me, I felt like was no. So at that point I said, all right, cool. I think we're going to have to explore going in a different direction. We got to pivot. It's time to go elsewhere. And all throughout the year, while I'm trying to figure out what's the next chapter for me, around that same time, I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So like my dad owns a contracting company. I have aunts and uncles that own taxi cab services, restaurants, you name it. One of the consistent themes that I saw for a lot of them was that they struggled growing their business because they just didn't have access to funds. Everybody was bootstrapping, right? There was robbing Peter to pay Paul just to keep the lights on. And through me kind of looking a little bit more into that, I stumbled into the world of just business funding, i.e. credit. And I started educating myself about credit, first on the personal side. And I was like, man, this is some really interesting stuff. I used it to start building my credit. And then I was like, all right, I got my nice little 750 going on here. Let me see if I can go ahead and help some friends and family. I'm helping this aunt, this uncle, my dad, my mom, either get negative items removed or start boosting their credit up. And I'm like, okay, I think I have a knack for this, right? And towards the latter half of 2020, that's when I ultimately decided that I was going to turn this into my next chapter, right? I was going to go ahead and start a business behind this. And that's exactly what I did. Now, the good news was I had the expertise. The bad news was I didn't know a thing about marketing. Right. So I have no clients, no leads, no anything. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, we're going to have to pivot again. I'm over here. The calendar's dry. I have no sales coming in. But then through a friend of mine, he was just like, well, the problem isn't your business. Like, you got everything good. You just got to learn how to market and put yourself out there to the marketplace. Start creating content on YouTube, start creating content on Instagram. The people will come. Sure enough, he was right. And on the YouTube side, going into 2021, January, I made a video that I think it's probably the video you're talking about.
That whiteboard.
There you go.
The phone number for
Hey, boy.
the call. Yeah.
There you go. So I had the infamous, the one that everyone knows before, the 24-hour inquiry video. And bro, when I tell you, a week before that video dropped, like I said, calendar as dry can be. I didn't have no one under the sun that wanted to work on my business. No more than 2-3 weeks after that video blew up, I remember going into my CRM that day, bro. We were booked out for like 3 weeks. I'm talking about 16 calls a day for 3 weeks. And I'm just
never know which pieces of content will hit.
Never know. And luckily for me, it was that one. And then I continued to build on the momentum, kept putting out more content around credit, things on how to, get negative items removed from your report, how to structure your credit report, just all the things I wish I knew when I was first getting started in the space. And people just gravitated to it, and it reflected in what was happening in the business. And, once the content took off, the business took off, and, I haven't looked back ever since. Here we are now.
Wow, that's awesome. So one thing I want to talk about as well is comedy, right?
Yeah.
And with the comedy, I want to see how it transcends to entrepreneurship, because with me working with a lot of clients, the main thing is that they miss is traffic, getting in front of the camera. When you're doing comedy, what is it like when you're standing on stage, making the jokes and hoping that people will laugh? Because where I want to take that is like the confidence that comes through also being able to make content without fear, right? So speak on that, because that's a scary thing, to get in front of people and not just talking. You're trying to make them laugh.
Yeah. Very different ball game. So there's a couple pieces to that, if I can unpack it. So first off, you said something there where you talked about hoping the people laugh.
Yeah.
What people see when you get on stage in front of, at comedy clubs is the finished product. And they think to themselves like, oh, this guy's a natural, he's good. What they don't see is at the time when I was doing it, and anyone who is a comedian now at this point in time in their life, was us going to open mic after open mic, bar show after bar show, performing in front of 4 or 5 people to try and fine tune the thing that we're saying on stage to make it funny in the first place.
Gotcha.
So and you could speak to anyone, when I was in the space, there would be dudes that would be working on a set of 5 minutes worth of jokes for years. Think about that.
Yeah.
Imagine having 5 minutes worth of material and you haven't done anything else but that for years. When you bring it to a person that's never seen you before, they're like, oh my gosh, this guy's great. Little do they know, like, well, it better be great. I've been doing this for like the past X amount of years, every single week, sometimes multiple times a week, multiple times a day. So to juxtapose that to what you're talking about with content and entrepreneurship, it's about reps, right? It's about reps and time. You talk about the content I make now within the credit and entrepreneurial space as if, and most people who don't know would see it and be like, oh, this guy just got good yesterday. But no, I've been doing this for years.
Right.
There's content that I put out now that still doesn't translate. There's content and there were jokes I was doing when I was doing stand-up that also didn't translate. But I understand, like with anything in success, it's not about trying to get a one-hit wonder. It's about, I'm going to consistently show up so much to the point where at some point something got to hit. And a lot of times you only need one. With me, I only needed that one video. And here we are now. In comedy or wherever it is that you're doing, a lot of times you only need one, but you can't get to the one unless you're willing to do 10, 100, sometimes even 1,000 reps worth of work to become the person that you need to be to get to that one, if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. Because what I was going to ask next is that you have that skill, that experience, do you still involve that when it just comes to testing in your business? Like that psychology of like, I'm going to go here, and even though it's a bar show, it's not really about making them just like run out of their shoes. It's about this testing and testing to find what works. Do you still use that skill set about in your business? Because everything doesn't work the first time you do it. And a lot of people get discouraged the first or second time that it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I think a large part of that is I still struggle with this now because I'm the kind of person in my business, I want results now. Like but I'm experienced enough in the space of business to understand that things take time. And like I said before, a lot of times it's about going through hundreds of ad creatives. A lot of times it's about going through hundreds of headlines on a VSL or a funnel. A lot of times we're going through hundreds of pieces of content before you can find out your footing or the thing that works. So yeah, I definitely still do that. I actually learned that through working with individuals like yourself.
Okay. To
where it's like, I'm coming in, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm about to spend 5,000 on these ads. I'm marketing more. I'm about to spend 5,000 on these. I'm about to be a millionaire tomorrow. It don't work that way at all. Like a lot of times when you see a business owner that seems like they're crushing it in when it comes to their marketing efforts, sales efforts, whatever it may be, like with anything, there are thousands of reps that they've been taking for years that you haven't seen. You're just seeing the byproduct of the 1,000. So I have to. It's not fun, as you know. Like we all, if it was up to me, like, you know, I want to try gold at first crack at bat.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't happen that way. However, you have to condition yourself as an entrepreneur to understand, am I in this for the profit or the process? Because if you're in this for the profit, you're going to be short-lived. You're going to want instant gratification of, all right, I do this thing, it has to work immediately. But when you're committed to the process, the profits and everything else is going to come after that, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
So you said you pivoted into the credit space in 2020, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that I've always admired about your process, you seem like it's like integrity behind your credit repair, behind your business funding.
Yep.
And you got in at 2020 when a lot of people made a shift.
Yeah.
But there's been a major shift in your space from 2020 to now, right? And I'm going to just kind of blanket it as like the bandwagon of credit people, right?
Let's talk about it.
So let's talk about it from you doing it at the most integral point with the whiteboard, making that video, to now it seems like your space is full of lifestyle and just outsourcing the work and everything. So like, I guess to like have a landing part on it, talk about like what makes, you know, Takeoff Financial just like so much integrity versus just people who are like quick flip, Bentleys, chains, cars, everything.
So I'll say this much. For me, I don't have a problem with the lifestyle marketing, though different strokes for different folks. I just do what works and makes sense for me. So for me, it's just about staying true to myself. If I'm pushing Bentleys and I got chains and all these other different things, I still probably wouldn't be the person to show you that, because that's not what I want to lead with, because I'm looking at the person that I'm trying to serve and asking, okay, what's really important to them? There are people who are in need of credit and just feel more comfortable working with a dude that, you know, has a $500,000 medallion hanging from his neck. And there's other individuals that will look at a person like myself and it's just like, this dude isn't flashy. He's about providing me as much value as possible. Every time I watch one of his videos, I either get a solution to another problem or I get a little bit more clarity on where I need to be in relation to where I am. I like this guy, right? So I think for me, it's just about being authentic to what works for me, what makes me who I am, and in turn, you know, it works. And like I said, I've spoken to some of the individuals that you talk about that are in my space that use that style of marketing, and no knock against them. Hey, listen, if that's what works for you, that's what works for you. But for me and our firm, I think what makes us special and what makes us unique is that we're all about helping. I want to give you so much stuff for free and so much value for free, and lead with that to where you have no choice but to feel as though like, I got to pay this guy. I got to work with this guy. I don't want to work with nobody else besides Marvin Francois and Takeoff Financial. So yeah.
My only like outlook that I see on that I think would be like good to kind of unpack for the people is people want to get funded. They want to grow their business. Like you said, like what you saw with your family, they're bootstrapping it.
Yeah.
Of course, the lifestyle marketing can bring in the people.
Yeah.
But is the message being presented wrong when it's almost as if credit doesn't have to be paid back? Right. You see what I mean? And how do you, or is that more so on the client's responsibility when it's like, hey, I'm going to get you 75,000, I'm going to get you 100,000. Is there any responsibility on your part to like them being responsible, or is it like, you got the money, go do what you do? If they blow it all, who cares?
I actually just had a conversation with someone about this. So I think it goes two ways. I think there is a level of due diligence and understanding that anyone who, whether you need your credit restored or you're trying to get funding, you have to do some level of self-education. One, to protect yourself, right? Because you doing your own form of self-education is going to help you to a certain degree put pieces together in terms of, okay, I have this base around credit and funding. With this, I know this guy versus this guy is better because what he's saying lines up perfectly with what I've been learning. On the flip side, for me and our firm, and kind of going back to a conversation I had earlier, with people I work with, like there are individuals that I don't even allow into my firm unless you've gone through some form of a vetting process. Because I'm gonna give you $50,000 to $100,000 to death, and then from there bring you in and just run you through a quick process to make a bag. That doesn't fulfill me. I would much rather, even if you check off every single box, your personal credit is good, your business is structured where it needs to be. If I see that you have certain habits or there's an information gap there to where you don't really understand what's going on or understand how to leverage credit or make sure you manage it properly, We're going to take the time to educate you on those things so that by the time you get to the finish line, not only are you where you want to be, but also you're well equipped to make sure that, to your point, they're not coming back to me 3-4 weeks talking about, hey man, I'm 40K in the hole. What's going on? I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
So I think it goes both ways.
Got you. When it comes to like the credit restoration part, I know a lot of like clients in the credit and funding space, they don't even want to touch credit repair at all anymore. All they want is like the win, which would be like the funding clients.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? Because what I've also seen as helping them out of marketing, the majority of clients are credit restoration clients. It's not really ready for funding. And like you said, people are 50, 100K and people to death. What does it really look like when you see the stats on the background? Should people be focused on credit restoration first before the funding?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on where you are. So if you need credit restoration, you can't come to me and say like, yo, how can we get funding? There's steps to the process, right?
Yeah.
With anything, when it comes to the business funding process, your foundation will always be personal credit. Because personal credit is ultimately going to put you in the position that you need to be in to where you can go into any of these banks and lenders and get access to the capital that you're looking for.
Okay.
If your credit is good, then there's no conversation there. It's more so on the business side of making sure you're structured properly and making sure you can get access to funding. But if it's not, then we want to make sure that gets taken care of. Otherwise, we can't move. I think a large part as to why people struggle with this idea of, all right, let me take care of the credit and then get the funding, is because in their minds, they think that credit restoration is this super grandiose, over complex process that they try and duck and dodge, right? When in actuality, especially in 2025, there's so many strategies that individuals who are watching this can use today to get their credit report clean without them banging their head against the wall. We could talk about that if you want to.
Yeah, let's definitely talk about
Yeah. So, I mean, for one, obviously we're in the AI era right now, right? One of the things that I try and teach people a lot, if they are in need of credit restoration and they know they want to get to funding, but they can't get there because they got to get their credit taken care of first, is to leverage platforms like ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT, and I'm sure you probably use it in some various ways in your business, but I think it's great on the credit restoration side because for me, one of my best favorite strategies to use when it comes to credit restoration is consumer law. The problem with consumer law is that it's very deep. It's very multi-layered, right? So that's why you see some people on the internet talking about 15 USC, LMNOP, XYZ. Average person may hear that and be like, yeah, I'm not trying to do that. Let me just go ahead and submit this identity theft report and we just gonna go about our business. It doesn't have to be that complicated. If you're watching, this is my camera right here.
That's your camera.
If you are watching this, the easiest and most effective way that you can leverage AI to go ahead and clean your credit report is using platforms like ChatGPT. You just need the right prompts to give them. That's it.
That's it.
So for example, you would go to a platform like ChatGPT. Let's say you have a collection or a charge off. You go to a platform like ChatGPT with a prompt and say something like, hey, ChatGPT, can you create me a dispute letter using laws within the Fair Credit Reporting Act that highlight inaccuracies that may or may not be showing on my credit report? From there, what it's going to do is it's going to spit back a letter out at you that will probably use laws like 15 USC 1681 EB, right, which is a law around accuracy, or 15 USC 1681 8195. You don't need to know the codes. You just need to know what to say to the software, and it'll pull the codes for you, create the letters around it, and then from there, once you get those letters, you're not only sending it to the credit reporting agencies, you could also potentially submit it with the CFPB, right, which is a place where you can file complaints against.
Didn't they like close that down or something?
They did. I have heard that they are reopening at this current moment in time. So it kind of is fluctuating at this current moment in time. But even still, if you're not filing, whether you are filing complaints with the CFPB or not, you're getting that letter, you're sending it directly to the credit reporting agencies, right? And then from there, you're challenging those negative items on your credit report every about 30 to 45 days. So that way, once again, you're not a consumer law expert. You're not a wizard or warrior to where you got to know every single code under the sun, but you're giving ChatGPT the words that it needs in order to create the letter for you in a matter of seconds. So that you're not sending out every 30 to 45 days.
Got you. And then when it comes to business funding, how does the business technically need to be structured?
Yeah, so really great question. So this is good because I think a lot of people think that you get the LLC and then from there it's off to the races, and it's a lot more layers to it than that. So in terms of how a business would need to be properly structured, it's a couple of things. Number one, of course, you need the entity itself, which for most people, especially if you're just starting off, would be an LLC.
Okay.
You get that either from your Secretary of State website, or you can get that from a website I like to use called busy.com. So BIZEE.com.
Okay.
A lot of people will use a platform like LegalZoom. I'm not a fan because they're going to charge you ridiculous rates on top of.
They are expensive.
Bro,
I used them back in the day.
There you go. You won't have to pay $9,000 and a right arm to get an LLC. You go to busy.com, BIZEE.com, and whatever your state filing fee is, they're not going to charge you anything additional on top of that. So your LLC is set right there. Then from there, you want to get a business address. This is another one where a lot of people mess up, because what will happen is a lot of business owners, especially ones that are new, they'll get a business address connected to their home address, which we want to keep totally separate. Reason why is because although we're using our personal credit to get access to the funding, right, we want to make sure that our business is an entirely separate entity from us personally. How we do that is giving it its own address. So we can go to a website like regis.com, regus.com.
Okay.
We can go to one of my personal favorites that's a little bit more cost efficient, anytimemailbox.com. That's another one. Another one that could also be good too, especially if you're trying to build business credit, would be Opus, right? So opus.com. Any of those three will work. You're paying anywhere between $10 to $20 a month to have access to an address that you can now attach to your business.
Gotcha.
Get a business email, right? Why? Because when I'm filling out these funding applications and I'm putting in the email for the business, it shouldn't be Marvin Francois 8282. It should be info@businessname.com, contact@businessname.com. Phone number, you can get that from a place like Google. Google charge you like what, $9, $6 a month.
Yep.
So get paid Google Voice, get a number specifically for your business. And then from there, you have your name, address, email, phone number. Another one as well that can help is, of course, getting a website set up. So you can go and get a freelancer on Fiverr for like $100. Get them set a one pager up for you, or you can go to my guy Tony, get them set a page up for you as well. Because once again, these are all the things that help to legitimize what your business looks like in the eyes of the bank. And then once you get all that set up,
so let me stop you right there.
Talk to me.
The bank is actually looking at
Has to.
websites and all of this
everything,
stuff.
because you got to
Not just bank statements that they're looking at.
you got to think, right?
Yeah.
You are coming to an institution to borrow $50,000 worth of debt, right? That you're essentially using to invest back into your company. If I'm giving you this money, I'm crossing every T and dotting every I to make sure that you are lendable when it comes to the funding that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So of course, I'm going to verify how legitimate your business looks like. Of course, I'm going to look at your personal credit to make sure all your ducks is in a row. Of course, I'm going to look at the kind of relationship you already have with me, you and your business already have with me, if you already have one at all, to see, okay, have you been making deposits into this account? Do you have the business checking and the personal checking set up and things of that sort? So yes, they're 100% looking into all these things. And a lot of times not having your structure set up on the personal side or the business side or on the business side could be the difference between you only getting approved for maybe 15 to 20,000 versus, 35 to 40,000 and beyond. So all those little things come together to paint a picture in the eyes of the bank to where it's like, all right, cool. Are we going to approve this person? And if we do approve them, how much are we comfortable and confident in giving them? So at 100%, they are looking at that.
Got you. So when you said business funding, the foundation of it is always going to be personal credit. Explain to the people when you see all this like no dog, no yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah. So once upon a time, you got to start it off like that.
Right.
Everybody who's ever done any type of research into personal credit or into the business credit space, especially if you deal with credit challenges, has heard about the no, you said no doc or no PG?
It's like no doc. That's just all I hear is like no dog, no EI, whatever it is.
I know. So
I hear on social media.
I know what you're talking about. So no doc. So there's a couple different ones. So no doc is
Yeah.
essentially when you're strictly using your personal credit report
Gotcha.
to get access to funding. So that's no doc because you're not providing doc is short for documentation
Gotcha.
in regards to the business. There are business credit products and business loans that you can apply for that look at bank statements and look at, P&Ls and things of that sort. When you're going for no doc, typically that's a business credit card product. You don't necessarily have to provide those things. If the business is structured properly, your personal credit is good, they're simply just looking at your personal credit and the relationship with the business to get you funding. So that's one type of funding. Another type, which is what I thought you were talking about, was no personal guarantee.
I've heard that too. No PG.
Yeah, no
the social media term.
The credit term. If you've done any type of research into business credit, then you know. So no PG is short for no personal guarantee.
Okay.
So that's essentially a type of credit that you're able to get access to without leveraging your personal credit report, right? Once upon a time, a lot of no personal guarantee funding that was pushed, a lot of it was pretty much centered around, hey, you have to build business credit, right? So you have to form accounts with Uline, Granger, Shirtsy. You have to buy all these miscellaneous items on Net 30 accounts, buy it, pay it back, buy it, pay it back. And then from there, after 6 to 12 months of you doing that, then you could go ahead and get access to funding, right? The problem with that is, number one, most banks are not giving you access to capital simply just by you going that route, right? It's just not. They're still going to have to use some form of collateral to loan you this money that you're looking at. And the very few banks that actually do look into those kind of things are banks that also are still going to want to see that the bank has, your business has some type of liquidity or cash flow, or they offer very restrictive types of funding. So for example, they'll give you charge cards, right? And charge card is essentially a card where you could borrow the money, but you have to pay back immediately within a 30-day time frame. If you're a new business owner,
That's difficult.
that's very difficult. Like, I'm trying to start the business. I need more than 30 days to get this up and running now. So with no personal guarantee, when you hear people talk about that, is it around? Yes, but it is extremely difficult to get access to capital that way, or it just doesn't fit what most people need, which is 0% interest funding that they can borrow and pay back periodically over enough time where they can reinvest the funds back into their business.
Got you.
Yeah.
So let's stay on the business funding as well. Like, because I remember the days where, you know, we would go to Granger, Uline, open the net 30s, all of that. I mean, I even recently like recreated my NAV account. Like, are those things still important? Because it feels like I create them and it's like, what do I do with it? And then like when I look at my NAV, it almost seems like vague. It was like show like whatever the trade line is, but I'm like, when did I do this? Like, what is this trade line that's on there? It says I owe $28. You know what I'm saying? So break that down, because I know it's also hot where everyone's like, I'm about to get my business credit, I'm gonna get a NAV account. So kind of speak on that education.
So it's actually funny because we're literally speaking with our relationship managers in our company every single day. So what you're talking about now, for most people who don't know, that's pretty much a platform that you can use to get access to your business credit report, right? You can use a platform like that to kind of get some insight into what your business credit score is. There are certain banks that do weigh that into the overall scope of their decision-making process when it comes to funding. But once again, it's not strictly just that. Like, there are very few banks, if any at all, that are just going to look at your business credit score and say, by this alone, we are going to either approve you or deny you. It plays a role in it, but they're also still looking at your personal credit report. They're also still looking at the structure of your business, the relationship that you have, so forth and so on. So can you use platforms like that? Yes, especially if you do plan on working with a bank that does prioritize looking at your business credit score so that you can get some insight into it. Most people probably don't have a business credit score because if they don't already have a very thorough and built out portfolio of other lenders they've already gotten business credit from, right? But if you do, getting a platform like a NAV, I believe it's called NAV Prime, which I think is only like 27 to like $40 a month.
Right.
You get access to it, and then from there it shows you some, if not all of some of the relationships that you would have with certain lenders when it comes to business credit, and also what your scores are across the 3 different business credit reporting agencies.
Got you.
Yeah.
So now when I see like all of the social media influencers and companies that do business funding, right? What makes people go to them versus go to their traditional bank? And when I say that, also, what I also want to touch on is with the credit repair funding clients that I work with, in order to be funded, like I always see like no derogatories, which is no late payments, no this, no that. If I have all of that and I have some cash in the bank, why do I use the alternative lending source versus just going straight to Bank of America, Navy Federal? Explain that.
Yeah, so a large part as to why most people would work with a funding company versus going to the bank directly is largely because they don't understand the strategy that goes behind the kind of credit products they're applying for, who they need to really sit down and speak with when it comes to going through the funding application process, so forth and so on. So you do have some funding companies that have relationships with people inside the bank, right? Who are relationship managers that work directly with underwriters that are able to do things like push the application through so they're able to get approval times back a little bit faster, that are able to speak directly with underwriters and see if an application got approved, but it got a low limit. Okay, why did they get a low limit? What are some of the different things we can do to go through the reconsideration process to get a higher limit? If it got denied, okay, why did it get denied? So if I bring this person back in 1 or 2 or 2 to 3 months, I know what to make them fix between now and then to make sure that this denial turns to a $25,000 approval and beyond. It's all about making sure that you're working with the right funding company, Takeoff Financial, to ensure that they have the relationships with these individuals. I think if the average person walks into a bank and is like, hey, I'm here to apply for business credit, they're more than likely going to sit down with someone who's in a front-facing role that probably doesn't have that direct relationship with the underwriter, to where they can go hop on their computer and push an application, but it's no different than if that person was to do it themselves online. Versus if you're working with a seasoned funding company that's literally speaking with relationship managers every single day at these conferences, at these events, shaking the hands of individuals that actually work directly with the underwriters, the people who have the most control over the application process, then that gives you a lot more leverage when it comes to navigating the funding process going forward. So that's really the key difference there.
Yeah, it sounds more like it's more service.
Yeah.
It's like in kind of concierge in a sense, in the way of you go online when you're filling it out. Like, because I know me, like if I'm ever filling anything online, there's that nervousness. Am I doing this right? Am I cheating myself by not filling it out correctly? You know what I mean? And then possibly getting a limit that if I would have worked with a Takeoff Financial, maybe I got the typical, 25K Navy Federal, but I could have got 50, 75. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to kind of transition this, I know a lot of people who are getting their business funding are using it to grow their business. Right? You said something earlier when you said, how much free content can I push out? Right? A lot of people are not, they're like, I don't want to do anything free. All I want to focus on is getting paid.
Okay.
From a marketing standpoint, so now we're going to get Marketing Marvin in the chair. You know, Marketing Marvin back in the chair.
Please sit up. Now you better be on that. Nah, yeah, but talk to me. What's going on?
What has been your experience about spending working hours, business hours on developing free content to grow your business? What would you tell the person that's just starting out, that just got funded, who's like, I got to pay this debt back. I can't focus on free, Marv.
Well, first, for starters, once again, and this also ties to a conversation I had recently. If you are going for access to, and I'm gonna tie this into it. If you're going for access to capital and you don't already have in place and plan on why you need the capital, how you're gonna pay the capital back if things go good, and also if things go bad, you're already off to a wrong start.
Correct.
So I think the conversation around what you're talking about free becomes difficult if you didn't do your due diligence and you weren't smart with how you got access to the capital to make sure you're in position, right? And that kind of goes back to my thing. I have people that come into my firm every day who are more than qualified to go in. But we sit down, we speak with them, and it's just like, if I help you get access to this capital, I know you're gonna come back to me in 2-3 months, which running around like your head is cut off, talking about like, hey man, I'm 40K in the red. What are we gonna do? Who's we? Who's we? We try to help you. No.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that I want to get out the way. If you're finding yourself in a situation like that, it's because you skipped steps and you didn't take the time to figure out, okay, what am I really about to do with the funding before I even go out and get it? And am I prepared if things go good or if things go bad? Because you know just as well as I do, not every investment is going to go the way you want it to. Otherwise, we'd all be billionaires, right? Just facts. That's the first thing. The second thing now, swinging over to free content, is you got to understand, especially in the world of business, this is competition. Right? Like, we're all competing at all my contemporaries in the funding and credit space. I lay out to death, but I know it's competition, right? It just is what it is. We all have the same clients. We all have the same leads that we're going after. And ultimately, what they're looking at is, okay, cool. If I have to choose between person A, person B, and person C, who am I going with? What I've come to learn from studying high-level entrepreneurs is the individuals who can provide the most value for free are usually the ones that have the edge. Because naturally, what starts to happen in the minds of certain individuals is darn, if this person was able to help me this much, help me get this many solutions for me just consuming their free content, how much more are they going to be able to help me if I now invest the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 they have in their program? Prime example was my hard inquiry video. When I made the hard inquiry video, most people don't know this, I didn't want to do it. The reason why I didn't want to do it is because at the time, okay, so this is good. At the time when I was doing the hard inquiry video, most people were talking about the hack, but they were selling it in an ebook.
That was the ebook phase.
That was the ebook. That was definitely the ebook where people were, the 24-hour hard inquiry hack. So I was nervous about putting it out there because I was just like, I think this would be counteractive to where if it pops off, people are going to see even more of a reason not to work with me. But it was actually the inverse because everybody else, because all my competitors were selling this solution, and I was pretty much just like here, and it worked. Now people felt more indebted to work with me because it's like, if this guy can help me get my inquiries off, surely he could be able to help me with my collection, my charge off, wherever it may be. And that's ultimately not only gave me the edge when it came to my services, but also from a marketing standpoint as well, to where it's like, I only want to watch this guy's content. Till this day. Like, bro, even till this day, I still have leads that are coming in, still have sales coming in from that one piece of free content that I put out more than 4+ years ago. Now, imagine if I had the frame of mind and said, I don't know about no free. Like, you gonna have to pay me for this, right? I may not be sitting here with you.
Right.
But you have to have the forward-thinking mindset of understanding, like, if I'm going to establish myself as an authority figure in the marketplace, I have to be willing to set myself up by putting things out to the marketplace for free, establish that trust and connection with my audience, and then from there we could talk about charging and upselling and doing all these things on the back end. And another thing too, I think a big reason why people are afraid about giving things away in content for free is because they just don't know enough.
Correct.
For me, I get everything away for free. Like, I'll come with this podcast. I'll give you the blueprint on how to get access to.
You still gonna need the expert to figure it out.
You still gonna need an expert to fill it out. You more than likely are too busy. You don't want to do it yourself, and most people don't want to do the work right on their own. And there's so much more to it than I can cover in just a 1-hour episode.
Right.
So I have no problem creating a video around these things and around my expertise because, one, I'm always learning. By the time you watch this episode, I'd have learned 3 other hacks and gems that I'm gonna go ahead and use to maximize my client success. So if you want to use anything I talk about here, I'm not worried about that. I'm already on to the next one. But I think for most people, they get this much information, So for him, it's like, I'm going to just go ahead and tuck this away in my ebook, in my course, in my wherever it may be. And I can't give this out for free because now I've basically given away everything that I have. But for myself, it's not the case.
Yeah. I think it's important too with the free content as well, because I truly believe we're in a trust recession where
100%.
there's so many people that do what all of us do, do what you do, who's watching this show right now, and people need to know who to go with,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So by giving away that free content, it helps you become the authority in your space, right?
Right.
And a simple question, you could probably agree that without your YouTube, or just tell us,
Mhm.
like, what would Takeoff Financial be without your YouTube channel?
Well, there would be no Takeoff Financial.
See, and that's the thing.
So I'll share a funny story with you on that. So before I had Takeoff Financial, I had my first financial consulting firm before that, right?
Okay.
So I ran that firm for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and at the time I had a YouTube channel, right? That pretty much the channel that I have right now, that I was creating the content on, providing value to the individuals. Now at the time, I was pretty much doing everything by myself. Right? So I'm doing everything by myself. I thought that's just how business was. I'm like, okay, I'm marketing, I'm sales, I'm operations, I'm customer service, and I'm gonna get to $1 million this way. I know no better, right? The reason why I bring this up is because what happened with YouTube was, as I was creating content, I didn't know it, but I was slowly but surely starting to get in front of individuals that I didn't know that along my journey were also gonna help me get to the point that I'm at now.
Sure.
So what happened is, through me creating content on platforms like YouTube, I actually got connected to my co-founder and my business partner, right? And through that, we started masterminding, networking, connecting. He also had a financial consulting firm, like I had a financial consulting firm. And I didn't know from the time that I was creating content, he found out about me and we got connected. On his end, he's now watching me from afar, like, all right, let me see what this guy has going on. Let me see if he's really about what he's about, if he's consistent, if he's committed to his grind, if we have the same values, if we're headed in the same direction. I didn't know. I'm just over here making content, trying to do as best as I can with the people that I'm serving and beyond, and just showing up every single day. And I'll never forget, I remember one time, this was back in 2022. This is 2022 when me and him had gotten closer and closer. One day we were having a conversation about some of the problems I was having in my business, and some problems he was having in his business. And what I realized was there was a bit of a yin yang, because all the things that I was great at, he wasn't as strong in, and vice versa. Everything he was great at, I wasn't as strong in. So we ended up coming together and realized, like, yo, we pretty much do the same thing.
Right.
We're headed in the same direction. Where you're strong, I'm weak, and vice versa. Why don't we partner up and create something great? And that's actually how Takeoff Financial came about.
Gotcha.
So in turn, from then until now that's why you guys are able to see what you're seeing today. But that doesn't happen if it's not for YouTube. If I'm tucked away and I'm great at what I do, but I'm the world's best kept secret and not putting out that content on our platform, I'm not sitting here with you. I'm probably in my mama's crib like, yo, Dana, we going back to comedy. We gonna have to figure this thing out. But because of content and beyond, it's created opportunities like that and so many more that's allowed me to get to the point that I am in business at this current moment in time.
Well, what do you say that strategy is? Because didn't you just get the plaque?
Yeah,
I did.
I did.
1,000 subs?
100%.
So hard,
Very hard
to grow on YouTube.
Extremely difficult.
I mean, like, when it comes to Instagram, you can cloud it out.
Yep.
When it comes to TikTok, you can just do your thing or whatever. But, like, what is your strategy that you use to truly just grow on YouTube? Because I've even seen from just people trying to be consistent, and it just moves like a snail. Was it something that it clicked one day and you were like, we got to double down on it? Like, what did you do? Because most people don't grow on YouTube. Even the coolest people on Instagram don't grow on YouTube.
1,000%. So for me, what it was when I first got started out in the credit space and I started creating content on YouTube, it was really simple for me, just from the standpoint of, I would create content, and because I knew I was creating content to drive traffic to my business, anytime I had somebody that came in the door through my business, I would speak to them about what were the main problems that they were dealing with on their end. And from there, whatever the problems were that a lot of my clients had coming in, I immediately got video topics that I could then create videos around. So it was very easy for me to stay consistent at that time, because I didn't have to look high and low to figure out what was my next video going to be about. I spoke with my customers, I figured out what their biggest pain points were or where they were trying to get to, and all the content I created was around that. So if I'm sitting down with you and you're explaining to me that your biggest problem was that, you've had collections on your credit report that you haven't been able to get off for a certain period of time, I'm creating videos like top 5 things you need to know about how to get collections removed from your report. If I'm sitting down with you and I know your goal beyond the credit restoration is to be able to get access to funding, top 3 things that you need to know before you walk into a bank, top 5 banks you need to know when it comes to getting access to capital. But more importantly than that, I'm not just creating these videos, but I'm creating them every single week. Some videos is getting 3 to 5K views. Other videos, again, 30 to 40K views, but I'm showing up every single week. And I think that's a large part as to why people don't commit to a platform like YouTube, because unlike Instagram, like you go on a platform like Instagram and TikTok and you could get 1 million followers overnight.
Yeah.
YouTube, it doesn't work that way because it's very different to get somebody to watch a 30-second piece of content versus to get somebody to watch a 10-minute piece of content.
Correct.
However, the difference is the 100 people that watch your 10-minute piece of content are a lot more likely to stick around and not only recommend your content to other individuals and beyond. Why? Because they've made a larger commitment to what you have going on, and they're probably more serious about whatever topic it is you're talking about. I may just go on Instagram right now and stumble on a piece of content around e-com or credit. But if I'm watching your content around credit on YouTube, it's because I was actively looking for it.
Yep.
I stayed to watch the entire thing because whatever you said provided me value, and I'm here to stay. So I think that was a large part of why I was able to grow the way that I did. I think the second part that really helped me to skyrocket things was the podcast.
Okay.
Like the podcast, and not everyone needs to start a podcast. I'm just speaking from my personal experience. The podcast was really a game changer for me because it got to a point with credit where I'm giving people all this game around personal credit. I'm giving people all this game around business credit, but some of these same individuals are asking themselves afterwards, like, okay, I know all this information. Where do I go now if I want to find out how to leverage the funding? So I said, okay, cool. How can I now start to provide value to these individuals? Now, initially, I wasn't thinking about starting a podcast at the time. The podcast actually happened by accident. Most people don't know that. So what happened there is when I was making the content around credit and I'm serving individuals, I was in a mentorship group. And at the time, I remember we were out to dinner, and similar to you, people were asking me like, hey, what are you doing on YouTube? How are you making it work for your company? And as I'm dropping gems at the table, I didn't realize there was someone else that was sitting at the table who was also in the same space as me, whose ears perked up. A guy, I don't know if you know Durain Delavante.
Yep.
So my guy Durain, he was there. I didn't realize in that moment, he's over here masterminding in the corner like, all right, yeah, I got to figure out a way to work with this guy, right? Bro, he gets my number at the dinner table. The next day, he texts me and he's just like, yo, bro, I think you should interview me for your channel. And I'm like, nah, I don't really do that on here. But I appreciate the offer though, right? He chases me down for 4 months. Like I'm talking about text messaging every day, voice notes every day, calling me every day.
Oh my God.
Bro, harassing me. And it got to a point where like at month 4, you know when you do something, but you really just do it just to kind of get the person off your back?
Right.
So at that point, I'm like, bro, all right, let's just.
You're like, let's just do this. I don't want to keep getting things, so I could just end this.
Let's run. Where you want me to meet you at, bro? Yeah. Like in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to show up, shoot this, and do whatever.
Yeah.
I show up, bro, the setup was not super, it wasn't this, yeah? We had an iPhone that was on a tripod off Amazon for like $20.
Dang.
Bro, like very large space with no sound paneling, nothing. So a loud echo.
Yeah.
And we just sat there and we just talked about credit for an hour. Posted it, didn't think anything of it. I'm like, all right, this guy's finally off my back. I'm done. I know about my life.
Yeah.
That video took off.
Man.
Bro, a month later, we get back on the phone and that video not only blew my channel up, but it also blew his business up.
Wow.
So he's like, yo, bro, you don't understand. Life is about to be different for me and you, this and this. I'm like, and at the time, I'm seeing the views, but I
what
still
year
can't.
Is this?
This is 2021? No, 2022.
Okay.
2022, I believe.
21 and 22 is great for the online space.
Man, life was beautiful. So he's like, yo, you don't understand. This is going to completely change my life and yours. And at the time, I still am not seeing the vision behind like what's happening.
Correct.
With him, what he does is he takes everything he earned from or he made from the video, invests in someone else's, invests in a high-level mentorship program. And he goes in there and he's like, yo, I don't know what y'all are doing, but everybody in here needs to get on my guy Marvin's podcast. I'm like, it's not a podcast. Stop calling it that. I still don't see it.
What did you see it as? Just a show?
I just thought I did a favor for a friend. Like I saw the views and everything, but I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like I'm just being stubborn about it. I'm like, I do this kind of content. This is all I do, right?
Right.
He goes in this mentorship program. He's ranting and raving at everybody about what happened on our podcast. And who's the next person that comes on the show? A good friend of yours and mine, Dion Coopwood.
He was number 2.
He was number 2. So Dion messages me, and Dion's like, yo, Durain told me about your podcast. I got to get on. I'm like, it's not a podcast. He's like, I'll see you first thing in the morning. Flies in. We shoot the pod. I'm like, all right, now this is it. I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore.
Were you calling it the Marvin Francois podcast?
What was I calling? I was calling it the Marvin Francois show at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I shoot the episode with Dion. Then Dion's episode takes off. And as a byproduct, Dion was able to get a opportunity to create the software he has now, which has ultimately helped to take his business to another level. So now both Dion and Durain is in this mentorship program, like y'all need to work with Marv. Marvin is the guy. His
Yeah.
podcast is the best. I'm like, I guess I got a podcast now.
Yeah.
And what happened there is that now it's allowed me to sit down with high level individuals like yourself. It's allowed me to sit down with high level individuals in credit, real estate, and beyond, to where I'm able to provide even more value to my audience because they get the credit information from me, but they get information on how to leverage it from them. Because I'm sitting down with 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs and we're talking about who they are, what they do, how they do it, but more importantly, how other people could do the same.
Gotcha.
And through that and the partnerships I've been able to form there, man, that's what's really taking the YouTube to another level. So I would say it's those two things.
So, and then the one thing that's so great about YouTube
Mm-hmm.
is it's just like the clientele that comes from YouTube is already educated. It's like, how many videos would you say you have on your channel?
Right now, I would say anywhere between 150 to 200. Somewhere.
That's like 200 video sales letters just on there. And then, and I have a much smaller channel than you, but I think the thing that's still cool is just seeing like 28,000 people watch my content this month. You know what I'm saying? And when you got to think about that, like for anybody that's probably getting their business funding, starting their business, like you got to attack YouTube because that's just random people all over the world watching your content every single day.
Yep.
So now let's get back to the podcast though. So now you've had Delavante.
Yep.
You've had Dion Coopwood.
Carter Goldfield.
Do you find, is that number 3?
No, Carter. What's Carter number 3? Carter.
Because I'm like, you kind of got a lineup going.
We got a couple. I've had a couple of very. So we
at number 3. Did you solidify that this is not
after Dion, who is like number 2? I would.
Because now people are probably like, I'll pay to come on the show. And
when you have people talking about like, yo, I'll pay whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, we got a podcast. I think we got a podcast.
Yeah.
I think for me, what was crazy, and I still, even now, it's still crazy to me, is like just the fact of people like flying in. Like there are people from the other side of the country that's like clearing their schedules on some like, hey, I'll fly in first thing tomorrow. Let's knock it out. That for me was like, okay, I got something here, because clearly if you have these high level individuals that are willing to move things around just to sit down and talk for an hour and unpack their expertise, I think I'm headed in the right direction. And I think a large part of that is because of just how I do my interviews. Like, I am an entrepreneur, so I know how entrepreneurs think.
Correct.
Ultimately, we want this in some way, shape, or form to serve our business.
Correct.
Cool. We could talk about your story, but if I'm sitting down with you and you've done 7 to 8 figures in your industry, I want this interview to be a masterclass around your industry, point blank, period. We'll talk about all the other things outside of that, but if you're an established real estate investor and I have an aspiring real estate investor who's watching this, how can this aspiring real estate investor walk away from this interview and feel like, damn, I feel like I just got a 5K, 10K mentorship just from sitting down and watching Mark's podcast.
Yeah.
And I think in turn, that's why everyone like the Durains, the Dions, the Carters, and beyond have been able to come on and see so much success because of the way that I frame my interviews. Right.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So now you've pivoted to being credit expert. People know that.
Yeah.
You're in your marketing. You got your podcast.
Yes, sir.
Now that you have these different channels of traffic come in, how have you structured your offers for your business? Because you have hundreds of thousands of people watching at different times, especially coming from the YouTube.
Yeah.
People need different things.
Yep.
How has that helped you when you first started? You're like, this is the one product that I offer, to saying like, I need multiple offers to serve the different types of people that are watching me.
Great question. And we were just talking about this morning, actually. So for us, the primary focus is being able to serve these entrepreneurs and licensed professionals and pretty much taking the funding process and handling it for them completely.
Okay.
To where you don't have to lift a finger and we're walking you through it step by step, to where if you know, whether you know a little bit about getting access to capital or nothing at all, we're handling it for you from start all the way to finish, ultimately until we get you to the finish line. So that's the main focus of the offer that we want to be able to get individuals over to. Now, the problem with that is you're always going to, and you know this, especially from marketing, you may have one person that you're looking to get that target, but you may have 1 out of every 10 or 1 out of every 5, where the other 4 or 9 or whoever it may be, they want what you have, but they're not ready for it yet. So what we do there is we have our business funding program offer, where essentially you come in the door, we will work with you if you qualify to get access to the funding that you're looking for. But let's say, for example, you don't, whether it's because you have personal credit that needs assistance, or you need help structuring your business, or anything else like that. We then have another offer that helps to prepare you for the business funding program offer, which is our community called Takeoff University, right? So if you come for the business funding program offer, we're not necessarily telling you that you can't get started. We cannot necessarily tell you we don't want you. We're just saying we can't work with you yet. What that looks like is if you're not able to get qualified here, you then go over to Takeoff University, where it's a community where you can join, And we're now giving you all the tools to connect the dots wherever you may be missing, whether it's when it comes to your personal credit, whether it's when it comes to the structuring of your business, or just getting certain things in a row. And then from there, once you use the community to get yourself in position, now you're able to come back and we're able to help you get access to the capital.
Got you. So my question would be, because this is a limiting belief that I probably have
Okay.
already. When people need, like, everyone needs credit restoration, people need funding.
Yep.
And then I feel like you may even have someone like me, right?
Mhm.
Who people are like, oh, he's got a business, he's got it all together, but there's roadblocks that make me not fundable, right? So like when people come to you, should they just come as they are in a sense? And the reason why I ask that is because it's like, let's say like I don't have a lot of bad stuff in my credit, but it may be utilization, right? And they're like, well, I'm not going to get funded, so I'm just going to wait until that one day I make a lot of money and I can fix this. That's the limiting belief. They should probably just come to you now to get a strategy plan, because like I said, the limiting belief is, well, one day when I make a lot of money, I could just clear this stuff out. But how long will that take for me to get there? You probably have solves that can help me get to my goal faster than waiting for my big break.
Yeah.
Till I can pay all my credit cards down, all this, etc. You know, like, so the question that I would say to you is kind of break down the process of a true business owner that's trying to do their things, but they have, because they've been leveraging their personal credit. So they probably have a late payment. They probably have something on there. Should they just come to you like as they are, and then you guys just build the strategy out for them?
I love that question because one of the things you said was the person that kind of sits there and is just like, all right, well, let me try and handle it on my own and I'll come to you one day. I'll come to you one day. For me, my thought on that is if you were for the individuals that say that they're waiting for one day where they can get things up and running with us, if you already had the information or the tools or you knew the strategy, you would have been doing it from since day one.
Correct.
So with that being the case, if you're at a point right now where you're waiting for that point, it may not ever come. Versus how much faster are you able to move if you're working with someone who's an expert, someone who's a specialist, who's already done what you're looking to do several times over and is going to ensure that you're able to get there, not only guaranteed, but also effectively and efficiently as well, right? So whether, like I had mentioned from before, if you're in a situation right now where your personal credit isn't where it needs to be, that's in turn, of course, why we have the university, right? To where it's like, okay, even if your personal credit isn't where you would like, where we need for it to be to assist you in getting access to the funding, we're able to now bring you into a community where you have the assistance that you need to go ahead and get your personal credit where it needs to be, get the resources to get it restructured, make sure your business is where it needs to be, also that you don't have to figure it out by yourself. Because you're an entrepreneur like I'm an entrepreneur, right? And we've experienced this in our own individual journeys. Do you think you would be where you are today if you locked yourself in a room, stayed in a cocoon and said, I'm not going to hire no coaches, I'm not going to hire any experts, I'm not going to pay for any type of coaching, I'm going to just figure this thing out on my own,
No,
right?
definitely not.
It's not happening. Same thing for myself. I had to go out and get help from individuals who were where I wanted to be or had the solutions I was looking to get access to. And whatever the price tag was, I was willing to pay it because I knew in turn, if the value of what I was trying to accomplish was that great, then I was going to get a return on that investment and then some. So when I look at those individuals, I think you could you could be a DIY, do the DIY university route, right? And try and figure things out on your own. But if you're about making sure things get done effectively, efficiently, and in a timely manner, and why wouldn't you work with the expert, especially if you know that we're able to help you get to the finish line?
Yeah, and before we wrap up, I want to talk about something that you know more than I do for the person that does feel like me, right?
Yep.
Maybe you have that utilization because you just built a $100,000 studio, right?
100%.
What about the bridge loans that can lower that utilization so that you can get the help? I don't know too much about it. I've just heard about it.
So a bridge loans in terms of decreasing your utilization?
Yeah, because I've heard of like you can get the bridge loans, drop the utilization. Now you're back fundable somewhat, I guess. I don't know.
I have, so for personal experience, I don't have too much hands-on experience in terms of dealing with bridge loans. So I can't speak too much on that from first-hand experience. And I also don't want to speculate.
Yeah.
I know that from a utilization standpoint, typically what some people do to decrease utilization is, let's say they have cards on they already have some cards on the business side. They then transfer the funds that they have on the personal side over to the business side. So it gives them some breathing room to be able to pay the debt down and also pay it down without having to pay interest on it, especially if that card is 0% interest. That's one of the main strategies that I know most individuals.
I like that strategy though.
Oh, yeah, very effective. Obviously, once again, the caveat is you would already need to have some type of business credit card to roll those funds over to. But when it comes to bridge loans, I'm actually going to do some research into that tonight since you brought it up, because it may be another viable option that I'm not considering. But for right now, it's mainly the method of rolling the funds over to the business credit card is probably one of the best routes that you can go.
Got you.
Yeah.
So the person right now that is the entrepreneur,
Yep.
or the person that started, that's like mind blown by all the stuff we're talking about. They probably already went to your YouTube and subscribed.
Like, who's this guy with the money?
Right. Who's this guy with the most?
This is brother.
What is the best ways for them to just get closer to you?
Yeah. Well, for starters, I want to say thank you for having me on your platform, man. You know what you've done. We're in your studio right now. Y'all can't see it, but this brother has a ridiculous setup. And I just want to tip my hat to you, man, because you built something special. You know, you're easily one of the most respected people in the space of just business and entrepreneurship. And it's really an honor to be able to be in front of your people and sitting out here with you on your platform. So I appreciate you.
Thank you.
As for the people that's watching, I appreciate you guys for getting tapped in and wrapped into the episode. You can find me on all social media platforms at Marvin Francois _ on Instagram, on YouTube, Marvin Francois. That's also where I host my show. So just go on YouTube, type my name, Marvin Francois. You're also able to find the Marvin Francois Show, your #1 source for all things business, finance, and investing. And if you are a business owner, regardless of where you are in your journey at this current moment in time, and you need access to capital, you can head over to our website, funding.takeofffinancial.com. Right? So it's funding.takeofffinancial.com. Submit your information, fill out the form, see if we can assist you in getting access to capital and getting you one step closer to your business funding goals. So that's pretty much all.
Got you. And if I don't want to do anything though, and I just want you to take over, is it done fee service? So I can do it myself.
So you don't lift a finger. So right, we pretty much handle the entire funding process for you from start to finish, to where we're leveraging our network of relationship managers who work directly with the underwriters. We're creating your funding strategy for you, so you don't have to figure out what banks and what lenders do I need to work with to get access to this capital. We're walking you through step by step every single part of the process, so there's no guesswork, there's no confusion, there's no delay. It's just results from start to finish.
And then with the offers that you have, is it to where anyone can grow with you, to where like, hey, if they're just like, Marvin, I don't got thousands of dollars for a service, can they tap into, what is Takeoff University, like what I've seen?
Yeah.
Community?
So in the event that, the business funding program isn't a fit for you, then you would get brought over to Takeoff University, which is more so for the early stage grassroots entrepreneur. Like, you are starting from ground zero. You're trying to figure out how to structure your business. You're trying to figure out how to structure your personal credit report and beyond. And what we do in there is we're providing real live coaching calls that are happening every single week. We provide course material that educates you on everything personal credit and business credit from start to finish, right? And we are also providing you mastermind calls and coaching calls that are hosted by myself, where I'm sitting down with you in real time, answering your questions and bringing you through the process from start to finish, right? And it's only $47 a month, right?
That's it?
$2 a day that you're essentially paying to come in and speed run your way towards being in position to be fundable to the people that we work with. So that's also that. And I'll give you the link for that as well, so you could drop that in the description section. But yeah.
Dope. Well, you heard my guy. That was Marvin Francois, one of the most integral persons in the credit repair and funding space that I trust and that you should trust if you're looking to, get your credit restored. Most of us all need it, and that will put us in position to do a lot bigger things, to reach the dreams we have by getting that funding that we need to grow. I put all the links down below, and if you don't believe me, just click the link and check out his channel so that you can see all the social proof you need. But I want to thank you for coming on the show, Marvin.
Appreciate you.
That's been another episode of the Tune and Tony podcast. Peace.
Appreciate y'all.